Willkommen zurück. Ich hoffe, Sie hatten eine schöne Pause. Wahrscheinlich, we speak English. Language mixture. Housekeeping, we speak English. Mariama and Diagne and me, who are hosting the session, will speak English. There will be Patrick Acogny, Mansour Ciss Kanakassy, and Germaine Acogny speaking French, and they will be translated into English. So, warm welcome back. I hope you had a nice break outside, and I'm sure that the piece still resonates and echoes. We're gonna digest together. So first of all, warm welcome to our guests. Above all, Germaine Acogny, Mansour Ciss Kanakassy, Patrick Acogny, and Mariama Diagne. I'm Isabel Raabe. I'm the curator and artistic director of the series Unexpected Lessons, Knowledges of Body and Sound. I'm a dancer, contemporary dancer in my first career, now working as an interdisciplinary curator, leading the Talking Objects Lab, an artistic research project which is led by a group of curators from Senegal, Kenya, and Germany. And this series, Unexpected Lessons, Knowledges of Body and Sound, takes place in the frame of this project. I think you already had the booklets. You saw the program, Unexpected Lessons, which involves from May. Now we have this opening program around Germaine's work. And it goes on until February next year, exploring plural knowledge systems in the body, in music, in dance, and in movement. So check out the program, and you're welcome to come back. Mariama, maybe I hand over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Isabel. A warm welcome to everyone. It's wonderful to see you here tonight. A lot of different people coming from very different, I would say, places in the world. So I know many of you traveled, so it's an honor for us to have you here at the opening. I briefly introduce myself. I'm a trained dancer and dance researcher. Used to dance at the Dance Theater of Harlem in New York, and I'm trained in dance research here at the FU Berlin. And currently I'm a professor for dance and performance research in Munich at the LMU. But I'm here in three versions, I would say, and this brings me to that project with Isabel. I'm a colleague of you here now, of you and Selina Basra, to take you as an audience through questions on unexpected lessons. What does it mean to raise questions on unexpected lessons, being unexpected, taught by something? And how is it nourishing for dancers, for an audience that is observing dance? I'm also here as a teacher, and I'm very proud of that, because we talk about people who learn how to dance, how to think about dance and write about dance. So here's a group of 16 students who came with me from Munich to take part at the opening. And I would like to name them because we try to name people. So here tonight are Sarah Bilesch, Antonia Draxler, Mathilda Dürr, Daniel Eckert, Nina Eggers, Alexandra Hernandi, Sarah Hohendorf, Lyra Hüter, Sophia Mohr, Therese Nguyen, Maya Nikolov, Mayenne Rain, Christina Trini, Isabella Vogel, Laura Fohlig, and Sina Wagner. Welcome to Berlin. I'm also a dancer born in Germany and raised and guided until today by a Senegalese father, a Lebu, and a German Sudetendeutsche mother, both born in the 1950s, 10 years before Senegal's independence from colonial oppression through France, and 5 years after World War II. My father grew up with legendary musician and cultural broker Doudou Ndiaye Rose. Learned from him how to build and play the sabar drum. My father never told me about that until he met the son Wadane Kumba Rose, giving sabar drumming workshops at HKW here in Berlin in 2024. I don't speak French or Wolof. That's why we also have translation here in a different way. I should speak it. I do understand the tone, and the Wolof sound is part of my upbringing. Instead, my father taught me how to cook. So I speak Djiboudian, Yassa, Supokanya, and Mafe. So for me, it's rare that learning about one's own family history happens on stage through academic approaches towards dance. And this is something that involves parts of what Unexpected Lessons does, to think about how we teach differently, how we teach through practices that can lead to maybe other practices. One practice does not need to lead to its own structure. So in short, this roundtable will influence academia in Germany, hopefully. Yes. So talking today about your work, Germaine, about performing cultures and contemporary art in dance and in the fine arts and in music, also stems from a beautiful collaboration at the Haus der Kulturen der Welt, HKW, that took place in June 2024 until September 2024. It was called Sabah, Polyrhythm and the Politics of Body Movement, where Isabel and me danced together, and many more who are here tonight. So Germaine Acogny has been a strong voice for all of us when we had the privilege to welcome her as a teacher, as a speaker, as an inspiration, and as a performer last night and tonight. At the HKW event, we understood Sabah, for example, as technology, as a space for reflection and transfer of knowledge. So today, with Unexpected Lessons and Talking Objects as the main force, we continue this ongoing network by two more voices, Patrick Acogny and Mansour Ciss Kanakassy. So very much welcome to our talk.
So let me start with introducing wonderful Germaine Acogny. We're still impressed by your solo. We come back to this piece, but let me first share briefly some details of your life. Germaine, you are regarded worldwide as the mother of contemporary African dance. You dance, you do choreographies, you teach all over the world, and as such, you have become an influential ambassador of African dance. From 1977 to 1982, you were the artist director of Moudra Afrique, founded by Maurice Béjart and the Senegalese president Léopold Senghor in Dakar. In 1997, you were appointed the artistic director of the dance department of Afrique en Création in Paris. And together with your husband, Helmut Vogt, a welcome also to you, Helmut, you finally founded École des Sables in 2004, the International Center for Traditional and Contemporary African Dance in Toubab Dialaw near Dakar in Senegal. You've received numerous international awards for your artistic work, impossible to name them all, including the Golden Lion at the Venice Dance Biennale in 2021 for your life work. And since 1998, you regularly, no, this is not true, forever, you regularly created solo pieces for yourself, choreographies for the company Jant B, which has been touring successfully around the world. Most recently, you collaborated with the Pina Bausch Foundation in the frame of the production of Sacré du Printemps with dancers from the African continent, accompanied by a solo by yourself. And last year was the premiere of your solo, Josephine, a tribute to Josephine Baker. A warm, warm welcome again to you, Germaine. Be here. Germaine, we first met in person 2 years ago at HKW in the frame of the program on Sabah Mariama was organizing there. And last year I was at École de Sable and had the chance to take classes with you and other wonderful teachers, and now you're here. And I'm very, very grateful that you and Helmut, you accepted our invitation to be here, and I think the audience is as well. But my story begins much, much earlier with you, and you know that. It begins in 1985 or 1986 when I was a teenager, and when I stumbled by chance over your book, Dramaturgie, Danse africaine. I was doing ballet classes at that time, and only classical ballet dancers, and it blew my mind because I was like, oh my God, what is that? How can I do that? It was only pictures, no movement. But you really literally inspired me to do contemporary dance classes, African dance classes, and you definitely had an impact in my dance career. So now being here, you being my guest, it feels like this full circle moment, which I'm enjoying very much, and which actually leads me to the first question and also to the piece. Full circle moment in the sense of how to connect the past with the present and the future. Somewhere at the beginning is a testimony of your life expressed by movement of your life, of the life of your ancestors. It moves between ancestry, colonial history, current violence and injustice globally, and a search of identity that is never complete. Do you see this work more as really a return to the origins or as a way of creating the future? So I'm interested in the dynamics of relations between the past, the present, and the future in your practice and from your perspective.
Je remercie Isabelle parce que j'aime beaucoup Berlin. Et ce lieu, je l'avais visité avec Jochen quand il l'avait créé. Et bon, je me disais peut-être un jour, elle a réalisé que bon, je suis dans cet espace en face de l'eau. L'eau, c'est quelque chose d'important. Et je remercie Isabelle. Elle dit que j'ai changé sa vision de la danse. Et j'en suis très fière parce que beaucoup de personnes me disent ça, sans m'en vanter. Hein. Mais d'être ici à Berlin, eh ben, merci beaucoup. Parce que, bon, Helmut, mon mari, est de Francfort, mais j'aime bien Berlin. Voilà. Et je trouve que le public était très réceptif et moi, je me sentais bien là. Donc, la question, c'est...
I'll just translate this part. Sorry. Thank you so much, Isabel. I actually adore Berlin. I was here in this place with Jochen, and I was thinking maybe one day I will also be invited here. And so I was, and the water is just next to Radial System, which is an element which is important to me. And Isabel said very kindly that I change her view of dance. I've heard this from other people before and must say it makes me very proud. I'm not boasting about this, but it does make me very proud that I was able to move people and make them curious about dance. And Helmut comes from Frankfurt, so I come to Germany often, but I do like Berlin, frankly. And I could feel that the audience was very receptive tonight. And the question was about the link, le lien passé, présent, futur.
Je trouve très important d'avoir des racines, donc de connaître son passé. Et quand on connaît son passé, on a des racines et on peut grandir vers le présent et l'avenir. Mais c'est important de savoir d'où l'on vient pour pouvoir aller vers l'avenir.
And so I do believe that roots are immensely important. You must know about your past, because only through this knowledge where you come from will you be able to fully live the present and develop and grow towards the future.
Et par exemple, ma grand-mère disait à mon père qu'il devait me raconter l'histoire de la famille, et mon père n'a jamais eu pratiquement le temps de me le raconter. Donc je l'ai lu à travers les recherches que j'ai faites quand j'étais dans les librairies, et j'ai lu des choses qu'il ne m'a jamais racontées. Et donc c'était important pour moi vraiment d'avoir ces racines pour pouvoir m'établir en tant que Germaine Acogny, en tant que moi-même.
I remember that my grandma used to tell my father, so her son, that it is important that he would tell me about the family history. However, he seldom had time to do this. And gradually, I had to find out about our history, going through books, libraries, etc. And this is how I came to realize that he had not told me much about our family history or about history, full stop. And it is so important for me that I found my roots, knowing the past, where I come from.
Mais dans les temps modernes, on n'a peut-être pas le temps. Je sais que mon fils était là, c'est la première fois qu'il a vu. J'étais un peu nerveuse quand il a vu pour la première fois le spectacle à un endroit du début. Il a su aussi une partie de son histoire, et c'est pour ça aussi que l'art est important pour transmettre. Je trouve que c'est vraiment important. Les artistes sont là pour transmettre ce que peut-être les autres ne peuvent pas transmettre. Et le corps, c'est quelque chose d'important, parce que le corps ne ment pas. Et par exemple, même si on ne parle pas... il faut que je traduise.
And I have to say that I was quite moved and shaken even by the fact that my own son was here for the first time seeing this solo piece at the beginning of time. And because I believe it's the first time that he was seeing it. And part of his own story is told in this performance. All this to say that art is definitely so important to pass on knowledge about the past, transmit, and this is basically what artists are meant to be doing. And the body never lies.
Je sais que, par exemple, c'est traduit ce que je dis en français. C'est traduit, mais même en français, si vous ne comprenez pas, d'autres qui ne comprennent pas la même langue, avec mon corps, si je suis sincère avec ce que je dis, vous pouvez encore mieux comprendre que de lire les textes, à mon avis. Ce que je dis avec mon corps, je suis tellement bien dedans et que je suis sincère, et que peut-être quelquefois on ne peut pas lire les textes, et vous me regardez, je crois qu'en ne parlant même pas la même langue, non, on comprend suivant son éducation et suivant dans l'état où vous êtes. Vous pouvez comprendre d'une autre façon ce que je voulais dire, mais c'est vrai ce que vous comprenez.
And I know, I realize that I'm being translated and nothing wrong with this, but I do believe that what I express with my own body is something extremely sincere. And even if you do not speak French or English, or regardless of the language that you master, the important thing is that you're watching my body, which is expressing my feelings and thoughts from the inside. And regardless of what education you have or your frame of mind, you will understand, maybe even understand things differently or otherwise than I do. But it doesn't matter.
Merci. Thank you. Thank you, Germaine. Yes. You spoke about the language of the body. I would like to come back to the piece we just saw. Somewhere at the beginning, as I understood, suggest that this beginning and this memory is not a static place, but a sensation, so let's say a sensation by the body. You not only said once the body doesn't lie, you also once said the body never forgets. And yesterday after the premiere, we talked and you said you have the feeling that the piece is becoming better and better the more time passes by and the more often you dance it, because you bring more and more experience into it. And I found that very interesting, and I would like to ask you how this experience of memory, personal and collective, how does this live in your dancing body? And yeah, maybe you can explain this sensation.
Alors, bien sûr, il y a des choses. Ah oui. Il y a des choses qui sont dans la mémoire, dans la mémoire corporelle. Il y a une mémoire du corps quelquefois quand j'ai appris des choses ou que j'ai vécu des choses, et quelquefois quand je fais une création ou que des mouvements ou des gestes me reviennent et je me demande d'où ça vient. Quelquefois je ne sais même pas d'où viennent ces mouvements, comme quand j'ai fait ma technique de danse, que je dis le corps est le reflet de la nature, et c'est des archives. Mais quelquefois, je me suis demandé les mouvements qui me sont venus, d'où ça me venait. C'est l'inspiration, oui, mais d'où ça vient? Quelquefois que je regarde les oiseaux, je dis tiens, il fait ça, c'est peut-être ça qui m'a inspiré. Je suis très inspirée par la nature, je vois les arbres danser, je vois les êtres quand ils dansent, je vois des biches ou je vois des pélicans. Donc c'est quelque chose qui me traverse l'esprit, mais je ne peux pas tellement l'expliquer, hein, vraiment. Je peux pas l'expliquer.
Well, of course, some things are in what I call the body memory, and I learned things and lived through experiences, and this I use to create and sometimes also invent a new movement. However, I don't really know exactly where it comes from. I do have my technique, my dance technique. The body is an archive. There's a whole stock of experiences and reflections in it. This is the source, obviously, but I never quite know exactly what is the inspiration between the movements. I'm very inspired by nature. I could look at birds or trees moving. That will inspire me a lot, looking at a deer and its movements. So it's terribly difficult for me to explain how I am inspired.
Par exemple, le nénuphar, quand je regarde la fleur sur l'eau, ben voilà, j'ai fait un mouvement qui s'appelle le nénuphar. La tête, c'est la fleur, les bras, ce sont les feuilles, et le corps, ce sont les racines qui sont dans l'eau, et la tête bouge, et ça peut être un mouvement aussi de technique, mais de méditation. Donc, en regardant la fleur, ben, je danse avec la fleur et après, je le transmets aux danseurs.
I will just illustrate what I'm trying to say by what I call the water lily, nénuphar. When you look at the flower of the water lily on the surface of the water, its movements, the head, that's the flower that's floating. The arms are the leaves of this water lily, the green wide leaves. The body, it's the roots under the water. And obviously my head is also looking at this flower. It's part of the technique. And it also, the flower is the source of meditation. And I try to pass on this to the students.
Germaine, I would continue. I would pick up from there. I remember when we had the encounter 2 years ago to not just enjoy dance movement, dancing ourselves, but also watching performances. We had the opportunity to go into discussion, into analyze from the body, and this is something that was at the HKW especially curated by my other dear two colleagues, Marie-Hélène Pereira and Atabe, who is here today, who curate the series Politics of Polyrhythms, and with several other dance practices. But from there also the Sabah technology idea came, and thinking about your work and the way your body speaks. To me, you are a language creator with a seismographic sensory, as you just explained, and you are making connections between past, present, and future visible. And since our body is changing constantly, language is changing, and I would like to know how you feel about your body changing languages of others, but also maybe being influenced by others in your body language. How does teaching, for example, maybe also change your way of expressing things with your body?
Ben oui, de toute façon, moi, j'ai fait ma technique par rapport à mon corps, parce que j'ai imaginé que la colonne vertébrale, c'est le serpent de vie, la poitrine, c'est le soleil, les fesses, c'est la lune, et le pubis, les étoiles. Donc, on a un mini-cosmos dans le corps. Bien sûr, tous les corps ne sont pas pareil, et je dis toujours, c'est pas comme dans la danse classique où il fallait avoir un corps. Et quand j'ai commencé la danse classique à l'école Simon Siegel, le professeur, je pense, n'était pas un bon professeur, et j'étais mince comme Elle disait que j'avais un gros derrière, des fesses, oui, un gros derrière, des pieds plats. Et par rapport à ça, j'ai voulu vraiment, en contradiction avec ce qu'elle disait, j'ai fait des exercices qui me conviennent, mais je n'étais pas du tout raciste par rapport au corps des autres. J'essaye quand j'enseigne, d'adapter, que chacun essaie d'adapter les mouvements tout en étant précis, les mouvements à leur corps. Donc qu'on soit gros, petit ou maigre, c'est la façon de s'en servir. Donc j'essaie toujours, et quelquefois, je trouve que maintenant je suis plus sympathique. C'est-à-dire qu'un mouvement n'est jamais mal fait, il est transformé. Et quelquefois, ça m'inspire. Et voilà. Donc, quelquefois, il est transformé, quoi. Et quelquefois, je dis, tiens, c'est pas mal, je le prends pour moi et je le transforme aussi. Parce que peut-être que la personne n'était pas juste à ce moment-là, mais il est transformé. Et je ne dis plus rien. Maintenant, à mon âge.
Indeed, you're quite right. My technique definitely is linked or is developed in relation to my own body. The spine is the snake of life. The bosom represents the sun. The moon is my bottom. And here we have a mini cosmos in my body. This is how I represent it to myself. And every body's body is different. It's not like classic ballet. I attended a school in Paris when I was very young, Simon Siegel School in Paris. And I was heavily criticized because I didn't have the right type of body. I was very thin and yet had a big bottom and flat feet, my teacher told me. And when I then continued in life, I wanted to contradict this approach to dancing. And this is why I developed exercises for me. And I'm not being prejudiced when I say, so obviously I started developing these exercises and techniques from my own body, but not to say that other people's body have to be exactly like mine. Every movement has to be adapted, although it has to be precisely executed. But there is no wrong body, thin or fat or whatever size. I do believe maybe I'm less strict, I'm more kind now. And no movement is ever badly executed. In fact, sometimes I feel inspired and believe, this individual transformed the movement that I was trying to teach him. And sometimes I then take that and move on from there.
Mais attention, c'est pour les amateurs, pour les gens à qui maintenant je fais la transmission de ma technique en ce moment. C'est précis, n'est-ce pas? Mais quand je travaille avec les amateurs, voilà, je suis beaucoup plus sympathique, puis voilà, je suis gentil, je corrige un peu, voilà.
Right. So really,
Je suis pas comme.
I do draw a line if I'm training people who will then come to be transmitting the technique that I developed. And I don't work the same way with amateur people who would like to dance with this technique, so I'm much less strict.
Par exemple, demain, je crois que j'ai un stage, non?
I think tomorrow I have a workshop,
Oui.
I believe.
Alors, n'ayez pas peur, vous pouvez venir. Hein?
Oui.
You are very
fully
welcome.
booked.
Do not fear to come.
I think we also have to bring in les deux messieurs. But one last question, because we also saw some photographies of the school, l'École des Sables. One last question. You founded the school. What is, in your words, the philosophy and the spirit of l'École des Sables?
C'est la forêt sacrée des temps modernes, c'est-à-dire quand les danseurs arrivent, c'est une école de vie aussi, ce n'est pas seulement apprendre à danser. Et c'est important quand les danseurs viennent de l'Afrique, ils viennent pas avec leur danse importante, leur danse patrimoniale, leur danse traditionnelle, qu'ils s'apprennent. C'est un comment on dit, un laboratoire de recherche pour les danses traditionnelles et les garder pour en faire des créations. C'est important de savoir d'où ils viennent pour aller vers l'avenir. Donc, c'est l'école de la vie, c'est vraiment l'échange, de vivre ensemble, de créer ensemble et surtout d'avoir cette force de changer le regard des autres, être fier de ce que nous sommes c'est pas les autres qui doivent changer leur regard, c'est à nous de changer leur regard sur nous. C'est vraiment une école de la vie, une école où l'on en vient, où l'on échange, où l'on partage. Comme dit le président Senghor, c'est le donner et le recevoir.
My school, which we founded with my husband, is in fact like a sacred forest of modern times. It's a school of life, and it's not only a school where you learn how to dance. The dancers come from every corner of Africa, and we really insist that they should also dance their own traditional dances. Germaine uses the word patrimonial dances, so that belong to their past and the history of the regions where they come from. And this is like a laboratory because we believe that you must know where you come from, including those dances, and exchange them with the others. In this School of Life, we create together, we exchange with the other, and we aim at trying to change the way people look at us and be proud if we achieve this change of how we are seen. And how President Senghor, he was president of Senegal in the 1960s, 70s, I believe, he said back then, you must give and you must also receive. Le donner, le recevoir.
I would like to continue with Patrick. Patrick, you are Franco-Senegalese. Now it's your turn. I know. You're a Franco-Senegalese choreographer, teacher, and researcher, and your work lies in the intersection of contemporary African dance, somatic practices, and contemporary choreographic creation. And you conceive the body as a living archive. Your teaching methodology is based on grounding, breathing, the spine as a source of movement, polyrhythm, and collective work. And it involves, as we could experience on Sunday, rigorous exploration of presence, listening, and co-creation in connection with African aesthetics and contemporary issues of transmission, and I would also say politics. And of course, you have close ties with the École des Sables, where you teach regularly, but your work in artistic and educational contexts across Africa and Europe through workshops, residencies, and research spaces, where dance becomes a space for embodied thought and shared transformation. And we just shared your thoughts on your work at the La Palabra space after the workshop. So you took the time with us to reflect about your work. And I always wanted to take your class, and finally it happened on Sunday. And I am now curious, after your class, in how far you as a researcher and a movement creator think about, we talked about that a bit like during our smaller conversation, think about language and about transformation, because your interest especially is not in separate certain dance styles, movement styles. You try to combine them and you try to give them kind of like a spiral approach. We talked about the spiral very much in your workshop.
Yes, that was the question.
That was the question.
Where to start? Transformation. It is interesting because it's not a word that I use often, transformation. in any case, I always start from the body. We start from the space, we start from the floor. I believe the floor is never neutral. I believe the space is never neutral. They carry memories. And when it's about the floor, we have to be aware that the floor is not something neutral, it is there. It is there, of course, but we want to enter into a dialogue with the floor, because the floor is always responding to what we do. It has to do with gravity. You give weight, and the floor is sending you back a force, and you have to deal with that. And that already is transformation by just listening, by being aware. How I stand, how I breathe. And I think everything starts for me by just listening. Because listening is already dancing for me. So maybe if I use that word transformation, start by simply listening to your body.
Thank you. Patrick, now it's me. From both sides. Let's talk about music, Patrick. When we were preparing the workshop, I told you that we have djembe players, and you were happy that we have djembe players and not sabah players, which is much more tight. And maybe you can elaborate much better than me about the difference between the two. But in the context of these questions of knowledges of body and sound, my question for you would be, how do rhythms and how does music shape not only movement, but also the way knowledge, and you talked about knowledge, way of sensing, relating, transmitting knowledge through your body? What role plays music in this?
I like more the question for my mother. I had my answers for my mother. I said, I would say that. Now I'm like, damn, this is a difficult question they're asking me. Okay, music. From an African dance perspective, from traditional dance perspective, when you think music, you also think dance. The dance is the music, and the music is the dancing. Again, from a traditional perspective, talking from West Africa, we know that when you have a particular rhythm, you have particular movement that go with that rhythm. They go together. Colonization, independence came about, creation of national ballet came about, and our traditional dance became institutional dance. So basically dance that were recognized by the state. So it had to have a certain flavor, a certain way we had to do that in a certain way, and we started also to create new movement on these rhythms. And what happened is the music evolved. Somehow it became more technical, more virtuosic, more creative, and the dance followed. The purpose was for spectacularism. But it always went together, dance and music. But what happened, interestingly, is that the music probably came from the fascination from Europe, or from the Western world for the drumming, and then the music became more just music without the dancing. So a lot of new rhythm were created without the dance with it. But the dance never developed in Africa, to my knowledge, without music, which is a very European or Western way of thinking dance. You know, you could dance, be your own music without music, or the music is just the background, you know, like in contemporary dance. So in my teaching, to come to make it short, I try to, there are different levels. Again, I'm coming back to the basics. You have to listen to the rhythm, listen to the beat, how it is touching you inside, and how do you respond to that? First of all, you respond in your own ways, because we all have different ways of responding to the music. And then you have to enter a particular way of moving, a particular way of grooving, a particular aesthetic. And that we build that through specific exercises that will help the dancer to get into that. But it means with the music, you have to listen to the music, but do not listen to only the sound that you hear. You have to look at the musician, because the musician is always looking at the dancer. He's looking at you and he's playing for you. And most of the time in the class, the dancers are on the music, they're listening with their ears, but they're not listening with their eyes. And there are many levels for the music and the dance. That happens the sound, but also the visual aspect, but also how it touches your skin. So I try to make it simple. And so these are things that, that's why, the reason why I start from a very somatic perspective, meaning that I like the dancer to really feel the floor, feel the space, feel the body, listen to the music, and we enter slowly so that they realize that actually I'm not making a difference between dance and music, gesture and sound, and they're the same thing, and they just have to listen.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes. So we talked about dance and music. Let's make it more complicated and let's bring research in it, because you're also a researcher. How is your practice there? You said, the book, yeah. You told me that you're thinking with your body. So what is your approach as a researcher to dance?
It has evolved. When I started research, the reason was very pragmatic, practical. You know, I thought, okay, how can I sell myself, sell my experience? So I found that, okay, if I do studies, if I get a diploma, then maybe I could sell better myself. So that was very basic, you know. So I went to Middlesex University in London. I did a master there. What I did not know, so that's an unexpected lesson, is that I realized how little I knew about what I was doing for so many years. And I learned to put words on what I was doing. So I realized that I could actually explain things that dancers think they cannot explain. So I get hooked up with just research, the desire, the passion for learning and discovering things, but not just. I'm like obsessed with dance, with African dance, and so anything about it, I will read, I will try to understand, I will observe, and research gave me that field to do that. But it was very in the mind. It was very intellectual, and I'm also very analytical, and I love this abstract thinking. And then I realized that I was kind of separating the research from actually the doing, the dancing. And I remember in 2005, my mother and Helmut invited me to come to teach at the École des Arts for the very first time. And I realized how much I missed being into the body. And I realized that my research, I was on the wrong track, thinking research from the brain, and I had to start all over again. Your research should always start from the body. So that was another unexpected lesson. And I think everything to do with research are always what happens in my body. What do I see in your body? What do you feel in your body? You know, it's always that the starting point. So I'm saying to dancers, well, dancers, you're all researchers. Research starts in the studio when you start to feel the floor, feel your grounding, listen to your breathing, activate your spine, etc., etc. So that's already research. Another one? Okay.
Should we give you a pause?
Whatever, I'm ready. I'm getting warmed up now.
You're getting warmed up now. Maybe we have like another perspective and then come back because you said something that makes me want to pick up from you talked about like you kind of needed to sell your work. Or I mean, that's what we also do. We need to, not in selling in terms of like financially selling, but also in terms of how do we make people believe that what we do is something not just of value, but something that is needed. So I think that's an important part in terms of contemporary dance and its economy. There is an economy on contemporary dance. The schooling and performances are also embedded in a system like which dance is popular right now. So that is, I think, a part that makes me also for the future wonder.
Yeah. Not everybody is like my mother, performing at the age of 82. I stopped performing, I was 36. And I did not want to go back on stage. So, you know, I know that as a dancer, I could say, oh, I'm a dancer, so I do audition and do my best, you know. But that's not what I wanted. You know, I was an artistic director of a dance company, I was a dance maker, and I was like, how can I just prove that I'm all I'm saying, you know, that I know what I'm knowing. Then I realized I didn't know much, but that's another matter. Yeah, it was as basic as that, you know. It's like, okay, it was not necessarily to earn a living, but to prove that I know. And also, there were another point that is important that we should not forget. At the time in the 90s, most African dancers, we could hardly speak about African dance in a way that that was I'm putting it wrong. Most people will speak in our behalf about African dance. Hardly African dancers would speak about their own dance, their own practice, where they were coming from. So I felt that it was important that I could talk to people and say, this is where I'm coming from, this is how I'm situated, I'm coming from this place, and from that very experience as a dancer or a dance maker, I can say this, you know? And you do not put the words for me, you don't speak on my behalf, because I'm able to do that. And so I think I was starting a process of decolonizing the ideas we had on African dance practices. So it was very important. So that revolution started for me at that moment, the need to yes, and I knew that with you know, I would say, oh, I have a PhD in dance studies. People were like, oh, you know, they would just be more respectful. So the title was important for me, though I never really used it, but that's another matter. Not in the sense of academic, because I always use it anyway, but it's just what I'm interested in is what does the body says and how I can express that.
Thank you. Mansour, I would like to go to your work. You are a visual artist living in Berlin and Senegal, and in 2001 you founded the Laboratoire de Déberlinisation, following a very important topic that we heard also in the film, that is like kind of like the one of the starting wounds, the Congo Conference in Berlin in 1884 and its impact on Africa, Europe dividing the continent into pieces like a cake. So your laboratory is a conceptual space for art that aims to expose exploitation and colonialities that continue to affect the African continent to this day. And so when it continues to affect the African continent, it continues to affect what we, the possibilities we have for dance, for art. And therefore you have joined forces with other artists to achieve the seemingly impossible, a new currency, the Afro, from the United States of Africa, a prototype currency for all of Africa. I brought it with you, I bought it from you at the Haus der Kultur in der Welt, when you had your Bank of the United States of Africa. And what I'm saying here with a smile is something that is connected to dance, because this prototype is an imaginary single currency for Africa to make it possible to move across a continent without borders that prohibit you to change or to move within cultures, to actually move as a dancer across the country. So your currency is addressing exactly what art also manages to overcome borders. And your artistic work, which has never abandoned the search for the significance of traditional forms, sets its reference points historically, both to the power relations that emerged from colonialism and to pre-colonial knowledge and its symbolism. And you worked with what Isabel and me brought as clearly fans of Germaine. You worked with what we see here, the images from her book, with photographs from the earliest, actually the earliest capturing of the school, and you merged it with the currency. I will try to get it out of my little sachet, because I'm very careful with that currency. And so, like, this currency is the backdrop for your photographs, for the montage. And I think that is like a very beautiful way to make a political statement, an artistic statement, and to refer back to what after the independence of Senegal was the future hope to combine the arts with culture and a political vision and the independency of a currency. And I think it would be very lovely to hear from you in how far the dance as a moving art form does inspire you as a visual artist, working with maybe not dance as dancing with your body, but dancing actually with the impossibilities.
Alors, Mariama, vous venez de poser plusieurs questions à la fois. Et donc, vous avez commencé avec la déberlinisation. Et à ma grande surprise, je ne pensais pas parler ce soir de la déberlinisation, mais vous m'obligez quand même d'en parler un tout petit peu avant de revenir avec mes rapports avec Germaine. Et donc, le laboratoire de déberlinisation est né à Berlin. Enfin, avant de construire une histoire, toujours, il faut revoir les débouchés et avec qui elle s'adresse cette histoire-là. Alors, Berlin était pour moi le point de départ de cette histoire parce que je me suis retrouvé ici où le continent africain était partagé et j'ai commencé avec l'utopie. Donc l'utopie, c'est le rêve en attente de sa création. Alors vous comprenez.
Mariama, you asked several questions. I'll start by the first topic you mentioned, de-Berlinization. I actually did not think I would talk about this evening, but since you asked, I will talk about it a little bit before talking about my relationship to Germaine and her work. So Berlin. I arrived in Berlin, where the African continent was divided in the at the end of the 19th century, and I started reflecting upon utopia. That's the beginning.
Oui. Pour rebondir, c'est très difficile à la fois les questions posées parce que ça me renvoie à quelque sorte une gymnastique intellectuelle, laquelle je dois me défendre peut-être pour aboutir justement à l'expression corporelle et la danse surtout qui nous réunit ce soir. Donc le point de départ avec ma création, avec la conception de l'art conceptuel pour en venir avec le laboratoire de béninisation, de confectionner des monnaies, c'était l'art d'abord, l'économie et la mondialisation. Donc ce triptyque est au centre de ma démarche artistique, lequel j'ai articulé autour de la monnaie de l'argent que j'ai nommée Afro, la monnaie unique africaine.
So such difficult, complex questions force me to some intellectual gymnastics, which again is maybe also a form of bodily expression, and forces me to also reflect on the conceptual aspects of my art, the laboratory of de-Berlinization. Here we have the three ideas: money and art and globalization. Worked on this, and the creation of this fictitious single currency, the Afro, was the product of my conceptual work. Sorry, I had to somehow. It's not so easy. The more conceptual you get, the harder it gets.
Thank you for the translation.
Ce n'est pas facile. Je vous l'ai dit, ce n'est pas facile parce que c'est une gymnastique un tout petit peu intellectuelle de parler des travaux conceptuels de l'art. Et pour revenir l'histoire de Germaine Acogny avec Mansour Ciss Kanakassy remonte de très longtemps. Ça remonte de 1977, bientôt ça va faire 50 ans. Alors Mansour, étant dans la classe de sculpture, et je devais préparer mon diplôme de sortie de fin d'année avec mon professeur André Sec, et je me rendais tous les jours avec mon ami décédé, Tafsir Momar Gueye, dans l'atelier de Germaine Acogny. Chaque matin, j'étais là pour prendre des dessins. Il fallait prendre les chorégraphes, l'expression corporelle. Il y avait le fils de Doudou Ndiaye Rose, le grand tambouriste qui jouait, Arona Ndiaye, et Germaine dansait. Et moi, j'étais tout petit, fasciné, je devais avoir 17 ans, je crois, fasciné par cette danse qu'elle faisait. Alors, je dessinais, et j'ai présenté mon diplôme de fin d'année sur la danse contemporaine africaine qu'elle faisait parce que c'était mixé entre le classique et la tradition. Moudra n'était pas encore né. Voilà.
So I did warn you about the intellectual gymnastics, but let's now move on to what links me to Germaine. This is a very, very old story. It started in 1977, soon 50 years ago. It's going to be our anniversary. Mansour was a student in the sculpture class. I was to prepare for my diploma. I had a teacher, Andrasek. Well, I'm going to maybe not give all the names. But anyhow, I had to go to Germaine's dance class in order to do sketches of people, body parts, poses, and dances. And there were live musicians, including drummers, a very famous drummer, Ndiaye Rose, among others, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by what I was seeing. Germaine at work, this mix of very traditional and yet extremely modern dance. And this is how I came to finish or do my diploma on classic contemporary African dance. And Moudra was not yet born in Dakar.
Alors, c'est une histoire quand même assez extraordinaire parce que nous sommes liés pendant cette époque à une institution qui s'appelait l'Institut national des arts du Sénégal. Et cette institution était pluridisciplinaire. Il y avait le théâtre, la danse, la musique, l'art dramatique et l'architecture, la sculpture, les beaux-arts, la céramique, etc. Donc, c'est un institut pluridisciplinaire. Et moi, quand je me rendais là-bas tous les matins, c'était la fin de mon cycle scolaire, je disais, parce que je devais présenter mon diplôme et je l'ai présenté justement sur la danse contemporaine. C'est ce que j'avais gardé de Germaine Acogny pendant cette époque-là.
So this extraordinary story is very much linked to an institution that existed back then, and it was perfectly multidisciplinary. It's called the Institut National des Arts du Sénégal. And you had theatre, drama, architecture, dance, fine arts, drawing, everything, ceramics, everything was being taught. And I had to go every morning to look at the dance classes because I was doing my diploma on this. And that was the very beginning of our work. Where is that book?
Passez-moi le livre là, voilà. Ce livre que vous voyez là,
right, this book.
Ce livre m'a été offert pour la première fois à Berlin C'était mon anniversaire de 40 ans. J'avais 40 ans.
I received this book when I was turning 40 here in Berlin.
D'une femme, elle est sculpteur ou sculptrice, elle s'appelait Sabine Teubner, et à Pankow. Elle m'a offert ce livre. J'ai dit, mais tiens, ça c'est Germaine. Alors, et je vois derrière, ça c'est mon ami, François, que je connaissais très bien avec Casey Bousseau. On était là ensemble dans ma jeunesse. Je reconnais les danseurs et je dis, mais mon Dieu, ça c'est extraordinaire.
And so upon this birthday of mine, I received this present from an East German sculptoress, Sabine Teubner from Pankow, Berlin. And she presented me with this book, and I realized, oh, but this is Germaine. And here is François, and here is Cassie, so dancers that I actually used to see when I was young.
Alors, ce livre-là, je l'ai gardé comme une Bible, en quelque sorte sacrée.
So to me, this book is actually a sacred book. It's my Bible.
Et il y a 2 ans, je me suis juré de faire un grand hommage à Germaine Acogny.
And so 2 years ago, I decided I am going to pay tribute to Germaine Acogny.
Qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? Par respect au corps et à l'âge, j'ai pris comme une sorte de réminiscence ou bien, d'un souvenir du passé, de ma jeunesse, j'ai pris le corps d'un de ces danseurs qui était François. À la place de Germaine, je devais réincarner Germaine à travers ce personnage-là qui était mon ami.
Right, and so 2 years ago, I swore to myself I'm going to pay this tribute. But how? You have to bear in mind time passes, the body changes, age, and etc. And so I used the memory of those days in the past, and I chose François to be the reincarnation of Germaine back then.
Plus tard, en 1979, je parle chronologiquement, je crois que la Mudra Afrique était née, n'est-ce pas, 77
Oui, 77.
Voilà, c'est ça, Mudra était née, mais on se fréquentait les uns et les autres. Casey Bousseau, et il y avait Mao, qu'on rencontrait souvent sur l'île de Ngor. Et c'était mes amis, ces danseurs qui sont formés par Germaine Acogny dans ce Mudra Afrique.
So the chronology is the Mudra Africa had already been set up in 1977 by Senghor and Béja and Germaine, artistic director. And in 1979, we kept bumping into each other, seeing each other, Crécy and Mao, and dancers that had been trained by Germaine on the island of Gorée.
Voilà, donc mes rapports avec la muse soignée de la danse contemporaine, je l'appelle la muse, Germaine.
So she is my muse, so my source of inspiration, Germaine. Oh.
Mansour, you answered all the questions we had just without we had to ask you. Thank you. This makes things easy. It was such a nice, we're running out of time actually. It was such a nice last statement. Germaine is, I think, not only your muse, but of many, many other artists from many, many art fields. We are grateful, we are thankful, we are filled with lessons, with joy, with everything you gave us, you shared with us and the audience. Thank you for taking the time. It's late, you're still here, thank you for that. Tomorrow you give us une stage, a workshop, which so all of you who have tickets can't wait. It's at Tanzfabrik. It's not here at Radialsystem. It's Möckernstraße Tanzfabrik. And yeah, we are also coming back with the Unexpected Lessons series in August, and then in September you find the booklets. Thank you so much for staying with us so long. Thank you.